Welcome to the space. Thank you so much for being here today. Today we're filming the first ever podcast episode for the RJN podcast. So we're making history here today. This podcast is building a legacy that Wangari has been laying for RJN. They started by using communications as a function and as a tool, a driver of change, amplifying the voices of the most affected by racial injustice and legacies of colonialism. Our focus within all strands of our work has been to build solidarity across struggles, deepen cross-movement support, and to raise awareness of holistic repair and transformation to achieve our vision of ending racial injustice. We're very, very excited that you're all here to witness the first ever podcast recording. The theme of the season is communities of resistance, which is very on par with the theme of the day, which is Black joy, resistance and repair. And within this podcast series, we'll be exploring stories, strategies, and inner resilience of communities resisting imperialism and colonial violence and oppression around the world in all its forms. So continue to watch this space. This is the beginning, and we'll be releasing more episodes across all our platforms. So with that, I'm very, very, very excited and honored to introduce our wonderful guest with us, as you can see here, Lorraine Marcia Mponela. Lorraine is an award-winning author, public speaker, caring mother, and loving grandmother. They're currently living in Coventry as a refugee, and she carries with her the spirit of Malawi, where she was born and raised. Between 2018 and 2022, she served as the chair of the Coventry Asylum and Refugee Action Group, a community group run by and for refugees and people seeking asylum who stand together and fiercely advocate for their rights and dignity in the UK. Lorraine has dedicated nearly all her free moments to writing and supporting people trapped in the hostile asylum system as they try to rebuild their lives. Her debut poetry book, which by the way is in our lending library, I Was Not Born a Sad Poet, was published in 2022, marking the beginning of her literary journey. Her second book, Now I Sing, serves as both a poignant lamentation and joy celebration, honouring her people's ancient wisdom while bodily envisioning her future. I am so honoured to be hosting you today. I feel so honoured to be speaking to you, Lorraine. So welcome. Do you want to introduce yourself to the audience as well?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Iris. And I'm so happy to be here, and thank you for coming this early in this weather. So yes, as I have been introduced, I'm Lorraine Marcia Mponela, originally from Malawi. I came in this country in 2008. I came to study at the University of Leeds, here in Leeds. It was my first place to come here. So I'm back here today. It's like I'm back home because this was my first place in the UK. So I finished my master's in 2008. I worked a little bit in care work, and then in 2015 I claimed asylum. So when I claimed asylum, that's when I was moved to Coventry. That's where I live now. So my asylum case took 7 years. In 2022, I was granted refugee status, which I am grateful for. And that's where I am now, building my life. I'm also a grandmother now, two-time grandmother. My son lives in Malawi with his family. So yeah, I'm so happy to be in this podcast, and like you have heard, the first podcast so far, so it's quite a privilege. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here. So just to set the context for this episode, our communities witnessed horrific acts of violence this last summer. Far-right and fascist mobs attacked our communities, and this was a manifestation of decades of normalized racism, the hostile environment, and scapegoating and vilification of migrants. Our communities witnessed and experienced the outcomes of deeply entrenched racism, Islamophobia, Afrophobia, and xenophobia, which has been enabled by mass media and British politicians. Our communities continue to be scapegoated and used as shields to distract away from systemic and structural failings of our governments. So with that being said, to start the conversation, I wanted to know what was happening for you and your community on the ground, and like what were you seeing, what were you hearing, and what were you feeling?
For me, it came as a surprise because I was just going about my day-to-day thing. I work in Birmingham, although I live in Coventry. But then it reached a point where I could hear my friends saying about the fear they had. Plus, that fear, it also came into me. So I had fear myself, but at the same time, fearing also my friends, my, people around me in my community. So a lot of things that people were sharing at that time was also exactly how I was feeling myself. So at times it was so hard, like I'm going through the same. How do I also support other people who are feeling the same? I remember how I was feeling myself, if I'm talking about how I was feeling. Each time I was thinking, I was rushing to the toilet. I didn't know what was happening. Until there's also some work that I do with crisis. So with crisis, there's a phone call that you can call if you have problems. So I rang the counselor, and then I was telling him how I was feeling, and he said, "Oh, okay, you are having anxiety." That's when I realized that actually the feeling of going to the toilet again and again, each time I'm thinking I was rushing to the toilet, was due to anxiety of what was happening. Then on one of the WhatsApp group as well, someone was like, "Oh, how are people?" So I said, I've been experiencing this, and the counselor has just said it's anxiety. A lot of people on there were also commenting about, "Oh, we also didn't know, actually this is how we are also feeling." So to me, I was relieved somehow to know that it wasn't just me experiencing that. There were also other people experiencing the same feelings. So in my community, we felt differently. I remember one of my friends who was talking about, I can't go out. She comes from Sierra Leone. Is it Sierra Leone or Liberia?
Yes.
One of the countries. Yeah. But she was saying, this is exactly how war started in my country, because one tribe against the other, and then that's it. So now, just hearing this, I can't even get out because my trauma is just back. I feel like the same thing that I ran away is following me. I thought I ran away from war, but the war is right here. So I thought UK is safe, but where is the safety? Do we really have safe place in the world? I was like, I really don't know. But in this, upon hearing how people are feeling and how it's linking them to their past traumas and stuff like that, but there was also something that someone is saying, I'm an asylum seeker, I have ACK card, I can't go to do shopping because I'm afraid to go out, but this ACK card I can't also shop online, but I don't have food in the house. So what do I do? So there was kind of like different challenges for different people. And my friends from Muslim background, they were like, we are even afraid to wear hijab, which we wear by choice. Like, this is part of me, but I'm afraid to wear, I have to take it off to just go out. So it was different for different people. And those experiences, especially for people lacking food because you do not have the power to shop online, that was also a huge challenge as well. Yeah,
it sounds like a really challenging time.
It was, but at the same time we also had a very good response. So I remember Anu was just finding out, Lorraine, how are you? Because of what is going on. I was like, oh my God. So I poured everything there. Like, this is what is happening. And I don't know, I'm quite disturbed because I can't be hearing people telling me we don't have food and I keep quiet. And fortunately, Anu probably had some budget and she was like, oh, maybe, okay, fantastic. And she said, maybe we can do something about this. Approximately how many people? I'm like, yeah, no, we are many. So she tried her best, and then we went into asking people, what do you need right now? So people were writing their shopping list, and Anu was there to do the shopping, and we really appreciate because that was what we needed most in the time. Much as some people, some organizations with well-meaning, finding out what is going on, and when people tell their stories and there's an immediate need, how do we make sure as well that the people are supported? They've told their story, but for example, this woman she's saying, but I don't have food, I can't go out, I can't use my card.
Yeah.
We've told her story, but we know she has just told us, I don't have food. So how do we just be happy that the story has been told, but yet we know that someone is suffering. She really doesn't have food. She can't go out because of what is happening. But we also saw, I think, the power of community, because there was a lot of sharing, like there was intelligence to say, oh, they're saying they're coming this, they're saying they're... So there was something going on, bringing us together to just stay close and making sure that everyone feels safe in their own space, or to be careful. Even still continuing with the support that RJN gave to us. Where I live, it used to be a night shelter for refuged asylum seekers and migrants who are destitute. I ended up there in 2017 when I became homeless myself. And so it's a well-known place in Coventry, and it's also just outside the biggest mosque in Coventry. So there was a day when they had listed a lot of places, including migrant centers and Stony Stanton Road, because that's where we are. So for me, I'm like, there can never be another Stony Stanton Road. It's this one, and it's because the mosque is here, because the far right were targeting mosques and places like that. So to me, it was just feeling like tonight is the night. But Anne was there, so, no, hang on. Maybe we can find a plan here. We need, if you need an exit plan, we can pay for, for you to go, like maybe at a hotel or something. I asked friends about hotels. They're like, I don't think they will accept black people from the way things are. So for me, in that moment, was also something like, it seems I don't have a choice, although I've been offered the support. So if you need to leave, can you go? And I'm looking for finding out information about hotels. People are also saying you'll be disappointed more if you go to a hotel and they reject you. So you better stay where you are. And so in that moment, I just sat in my room crying and all of that. But I was also writing. So maybe if I can just share the poem that I was writing as I was sat in that moment. In that moment, yes, because I had kind of like given up, but also with the anger, like, okay, this is it, because they are coming 8 o'clock tonight. Yeah, so here we go. We have some tissues here, right? Yeah. Oh, good. Thank you. Okay, so this poem is called Let My Body Burn. Do not cry for me. Let my burned body and the hissing sound of flame it makes speak for itself. This body has thirsted for peace, longed for liberation, for a life undisturbed. If this body gets burnt tonight in racist terror tonight, do not pour water over it. Let it burn. Maybe someone will learn that a body that has fought for love, mourned for peace, usually has none of those feelings left when confronted with hate. Let my body burn. Do not pour water over it. Allow it to burn well, so that in hell there will be nothing left for the devil, as they will already have done his work. Do not pour water on me, not even a droplet. My fear is gone, so is my hope. Not a drop left. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. That was really powerful. Thank you. So when I'm hearing what you're describing, all the pain, the fear, the anguish, the anger that you felt in that moment last summer when you were facing immediate attack by these fascist riots. How do you think those feelings reflect the broader hostile environment? Because we know that this was one moment in summer, but reflects broader patterns that asylum seekers face every day under the hostile environment. So how would you say it reflects the broad how you face it every day under the hostile environment during the asylum seeking process?
To be honest with you, the far right riots were worse. I know hostile environment is painful, is hard, and we have lost people, we've lost friends, and people keep dying. But the far right riots, how it felt for me, just to feel that actually I'm being hunted because of my skin color, because I'm black. I was like, was I not supposed to exist? You know, so it was really, really hard. But that is not to take away the impact of what hostile environment is having on people. And like you said in the introduction about what we read in the media sometimes, and even the far-right riots, it is something that has been, you know, kind of like nurtured, because people want to talk about other communities in certain different ways. And we saw what happened. I know that the far-right riots, they were sparked by the killing of 3 children in Stockport, which we also condemn. But at the same time, the far-right people took advantage of that to even unleash the riot, the terror on everybody. So to me, my question was, how can the crime of one boy condemn the entire race and the religion and all of that? How? Do we not have people in other races that have gone and done bad things? Not that I'm saying what happened was good. No, definitely we condemn that because lives were lost. We are against the loss of life. But then to react in a way as if all of us, we were part of what happened. To me, that was something that I could not process. You
can't understand it.
Yes. So now coming back to the hostile environment. The hostile environment, it's wrong in so many ways, because we see people, like recently what I've been dealing with. I have a woman, she's 74 years old, the age of my mother, on a crutch, but she's homeless. So one day she just turned outside our house, knocking, Lorraine. So me, I'm like, who is it? And I come out, she says, I've been told to come here. I said, oh, really? From where? Apparently from a homeless charity that they had taken her because it's now winter. But then that day they said, now it's warm, go out. But it was cold, it was raining, and it's a 74-year-old on a crutch. She's supposed to be in a probably supported housing or care home or something like that, so that she can receive the proper care. But she's outside in the rain, in the cold, crying. So the hostile environment, like I'm saying, it is impacting people in very different ways. This is someone with care needs. Why is she outside my door? What can I do to her? So really, even to some people, for me, it's when you receive a refusal, you still have your right to appeal, but you are already made homeless. Of course, from 2 days ago, I've just heard that now maybe even for refugees, because we were seeing refugees, people who have been given stuff, they were made homeless. Why? Because when you are getting your papers, maybe you have 9 days, although they say 28 days, from the day the decision was made or something. By the time you get the decision, you are remaining with 9 days to find accommodation. Where? So many people are becoming even homeless because they are refugees. So now I've just heard that they've increased it a little bit to 56 days, so probably that will work. But to me, it's hostile environment has so many different layers for different people. And so even if you know one story, that's not the whole story. To some people, it's reflecting in different ways, and it can really be hostile. I usually talk about the 4D strategy that people say the Home Office uses. Some people have even said, no, actually it's 5 days. But people talk about the strategy as being Number one is to make, if you were working, they'll make you destitute. So the first D is destitution, making sure that you live in destitution. And indeed, we see it when you have just been refused, like I've talked about my own homelessness. You'll be made destitute. If you were working, you are stopped from working, and so you can be destitute. The second D is detention. This is where you're put in detention because they want to deport you. So the third D is deportation, and the last D is death. And indeed, we see death because from destitution, living in the street, or people committing suicide in detention centers, or where they are being deported, or you are deported back from the same fear that you were running away in your own country. Because I have friends who have been deported in this country. Once they are deported, we don't hear back from them. So you wonder, what happened? Are they there? Are they not?
Wow. That sounds really scary. How would you say, both from the riots and the hostile environment, how would you say like that has informed you and your work as a person? And this can be in different ways, because you've mentioned before, like in that moment you wrote your poetry, and the poetry almost feels like a source of joy and resistance. So how would you say, with your work and yourself as a person, everything you and your community have gone through, even last summer, has informed you and what you do?
One is this thing of this lady who was talking, is there a safe place in the world? Because I ran away from Sierra Leone, coming to the UK for safety. And here I am stuck in my room. Is there a safe place? I'm also thinking about that. Is there really a safe place in the world? Because at the moment, I fear even my neighbors who are white, because I still have, like, am I okay with them or not because of what happened? I'm just thinking. So, because even in that moment, I live in Coventry, but I work in Birmingham, so I take buses. There was a day when I was in the bus, when someone came and sat behind me, I kept looking, and it wasn't normal. I even had to move. I even had to move and find a different seat so I could be looking at this man. Even someone just staring at me, I feel bullied. Like, if it's a white person, I feel, but it's because I'm remembering that. What is he thinking about me now? Is it okay? You know, so it's there in my head. But what I'm thinking about is safe spaces, like RJN also had. In the midst of the riots as they were happening, they called for a meeting. Let's talk. What are we, what can we find helpful? Let's come together and talk to each other and experience this together. I think that is something that we need to build on, having these safe spaces where we can continue talking, continue hearing from each other, because sometimes when we talk, that's where we also find our healing. So for me, safe spaces would be one of the things that we really need to nurture.
Nurture. It sounds like even when you're talking from the riots and in the and dealing with hostile environments, like there's these spaces where you can find others going through the same thing, or other places who care, and you can find comfort in these spaces.
Yes, because to me there is this thing which people say, the Me Too power, where if you are together, one person starts and everyone is like, oh, me too, I was feeling this way, I'm feeling this way, or me too. To me, I think there is power in there, because like I said, when I shared on WhatsApp, someone was like, oh, we were feeling the same thing. I felt good. Not good that everyone else is sick, but that I'm not alone. So we can deal with this together.
So would you say these spaces is where you draw your strength from, or is there other places you would say you draw your strength from, or is it in these spaces mostly?
That's a big question.
It's a big question.
So I come from religious background, so definitely I feel like in everything that happens, God is in there. God protected me through those riots. So definitely for me, the first thing is about God. Everything I believe, like, okay, God will protect me. but most importantly for me was the community. So the community coming
Together.
coming together in large numbers, claiming those street bags from far-right people, I think that was empowering.
Yeah.
That gives me hope that actually there's many people who do not want chaos. We want to live alongside each other because we all know that we belong to this earth, like we were just told this morning. You know, so we all belong here. It's not like just one person belongs more than the other. No, we are all equal.
And you can all find your space of belonging. Okay, this is another big question, but responding to where you draw strength from, what would you say, like, what is repair for you? What is repair from these riots, this system where migrants and asylum seekers, I feel like they don't belong or they're not worthy, they're not less of a human than the other? What would you say is repair for you in response to all this violence and trauma?
For me, it's the alternatives that we can build. How do we survive? How do we support each other, even though we have a hostile environment? How do we support each other? So like I've talked about RJN, which stepped in like in the height of all these riots happening and problems that just came up because we didn't know people will be stranded, they can't go to their shop.
It was a shock,
Yeah. But coming in to support, to say, okay, this is what is happening, but this is how we can survive. So finding solutions in those moments, but also we need to prepare in advance. We know now what can happen. So how do we prepare for that? Much as people say we cannot prepare for emergencies, but probably there's an extent of some preparation. Let's have emergency funds in place so that in case of anything, then we are able to protect our communities. I know there is also some funds that came up after that, which are also to do with repair. Maybe we need to think more of how can we repair the broken selves. Because to me, I'm not the same before the riots and now. Like I'm saying, I'm even fearing my neighbor because they are white, and I'm thinking,
there's so much trauma there.
Yeah. So, but there's also need, I guess, for access to healing, like the grounding that we did this morning. This is why I found it very, very useful to just sit down and think about, how am I here? Who supported me? Who is still supporting me in this moment? So having time and space to process that, we are back to safe spaces and things like that as well. Yeah.
And personally as
looking after each other.
Yeah. And more healing spaces.
Yes.
More spaces we could come together like this. And more personally as well, like I know you're speaking about your writing, is like your writing a source of repair for you? Like on a personal level, you mentioned God and writing. Is that like a source of repair for you?
So in my first book, there's a poem called From the Glass Bottle. From the Glass Bottle, I was exploring my life as an asylum seeker, where you feel you are in a bottle, you see everything. Oh, there's that mirror in a restaurant. Maybe probably we should read this this poem.
Maybe, yeah.
Oh, right. Okay. So, let's just get to it. So, yeah, this poem is called From the Glass Bottle. I wrote this poem in 2021 when I was asked by a team of psychotherapists in London who were exploring mental health in asylum seekers. So I will share with you. From the Glass Bottle. Have you ever been in a bottle? A colorless bottle with its top tightly closed. You can see the flowers and the trees, but you can't smell the roses. You are not allowed. You can see the bees and the insects, but you can't feel them on your skin. They are not allowed. You can see the cars drive past, but in muffled sounds. You exist and you don't. You touch, but nothing touches you. Sometimes I want to escape this prison where I wear a tag that says, I can't get a job, a relationship, or just be happy because the bottle has rules. Am I going mad? Thinking the trees lie when they sway to an invisible breeze, playing with my mind. These soundless birds hopping from branch to branch, acting out a silent recital of my death, which is being in a bottle with its top tightly closed, where I see everything but never touch. All that juicy job flying by, that course I could do at the university, that meal in a restaurant, all too good for one whose life is a bottle. I'm screaming, shouting for attention, tears streaming. I'm hitting the bottle walls with my fist. No one hears me, and I can't hear anyone. The pain to know that outside of this glass bottle there is a life, a normal life. Will I ever live again? Please, somebody break the glass bottle. I need to breathe fresh air too, like every other human being. Thank you.
Wow. Wow, that was really powerful. That was a really, really powerful poem.
Yes, so asking me about my writing, if it does help me, of course it does, because number one, it helps me to express what is inside of me. Sometimes when I start writing, I start from here and I end from there, and I'm like, oh my God, where did all this come from? But it was there. I just didn't know that I had it.
Yeah, it helps you realize all the emotions you've been feeling all this time.
Yeah. When it comes out on paper. But also at the same time, much as the glass bottle, I was talking about my experiences in the asylum. Almost everyone that thinks about it, hears it, they say, oh, I think I've also been in a glass bottle somehow. I have my own glass bottle. Stuff like that. So it much as it helps me to tell my own story, to express myself, to express my, to deal with my issues, but it does also tell stories of other people, and also it resonates with the different people. Yeah. Definitely. So I write a lot. Of course, with publishing, you have to, there are always some limitations. I write a lot, but it definitely is one of the main things that I use just to clear my mind. I cannot go to bed. Most of the time, my head is full. Like during the pandemic, people were saying, oh, we have nothing else to do now. But for me, it was my busiest time of my life ever. It was pandemic. And Rhoda kept asking me, Lauren, how do you do it? I said, do I have a choice? Do I have a choice? Yeah, so writing is something that at the end of that day, at the end of my 4-hour kind of like rest, because sometimes I was sleeping 4 hours, 5 hours, because I'm just like, but this, I need to write down what really happened this whole day today, these 16 hours, what has been happening. So I need to write. So I have a lot of books because I still use pen and paper. And then from there, something else develops. So sometimes it's the whole thing I've been writing. Sometimes it's just a phrase. I'm like, I need to focus on this. What was this about? Where did it come from? What does it even mean? And then maybe that is what becomes the thing. So it definitely helps me to come from one place to a different place.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Is there anything that has been unsaid that you'd like for us in the room to witness today about you or your community? Anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, so maybe some of you have experienced the asylum, but maybe some of you haven't. For me, I guess what I would ask people, especially those that maybe you do not have the experience, is to reach out to groups that are supporting asylum seekers and help them. Because imagine if it was you going to Malawi. You don't know anybody there. Would you not appreciate one person who says, oh, come here, this is. So it's exactly the same. Now it's something that is getting out to my heart. Yeah, so I think to me it's the connection. Like we are saying about communities. How do you even know that I'm welcome in this community? It takes one person. One person, if you talk to one person, that person you've talked to is the one that will lead you to somewhere. Myself, in Coventry, I'm part of Coventry Asylum and Refugee Action Group. But how did I know about that? Because I said I arrived in Leeds. So I didn't know anything about anywhere else apart from Leeds. But when I claimed asylum, I was moved to Coventry, another new place where I didn't know anybody. But one of my housemates said there's a group I go to. So that one person, would you not be you? That someone else will be talking about. Like now I'm talking about my housemate. So for me, that is so important. Connecting just one person. Connect them to what is available. Because they don't know, it's a new place.
Yeah. It's like someone breaking the bottle because you're so isolated and someone telling you, you are welcome here. Exactly. You can come in here.
Exactly. And because to me, this is something that I see as a huge problem. Many people would know that actually, maybe you are also, you can qualify for this, there's a food bank here that is good, but nobody will tell you. So you are suffering, oh, please, hey. Nobody is telling you. Until you find that person who will be open with you and say, no, actually, it doesn't have to be this way. It can be this way. And you're like, really? I've been suffering all this time. So for me, it's that conversation to a stranger, because not everyone knows. UK, it can be deceiving because, yes, we are a much culture. So sometimes we just feel like everyone is okay. No, it's not. Some people have just arrived, so they don't know nothing. And if we can be that bridge, I think that would be really good.
Huh? Some tissue, please.
Oh,
thank you.
Sorry.
It's okay, it's on my nose as well. Yeah, thank you for sharing. I tried my best to keep to time. I feel like we've kept to time. Yeah, I think I'm going to close the space. Thank you so much for sharing everything you have. Obviously, with a very limited time and a very packed day, we're already behind. This is only scratching the surface, like the very, very utmost surface of the themes and even the topic of the riots itself in the hostile environment. So if you'd like to continue to engage with the topics, stay for the workshops. We have the Radical Lending Libraries having books, and also engage with Lorraine's book. And if you want to shout out your new book that's coming out as well, if you'd like to share more about that.
Wow, okay, yeah. So we have these books today, so you can pay by cash or by card, but yeah.